The Affordable Care Act is not dead. Marjorie Cadogan, Executive Deputy Commissioner in the Office of Citywide Health Insurance, joins me to discuss what this means for so many New Yorkers. Welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to have you again.
Indeed, indeed.
Yes.
I like these occasions.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
I can see it on smile on your face.
Great.
Let's begin talking about the Affordable Care Act.
Surely.
There were threats, as all New Yorkers know, to repeal it, and it has not been repealed.
That is a fact.
So where are we now with the Affordable Care Act?
Well, I'm glad to have this opportunity to talk about the Affordable Care Act, particularly as it lives in New York State, because there's been so much confusion in the news, particularly given the efforts by the federal administration to repeal it, reform it, replace it in many different ways that have been unsuccessful. And a lot of rhetoric about the Affordable Care Act being dead, changes that exist in the way that enrollment occurs on the federal marketplace. But the thing that New Yorkers should know is, as you said, the Affordable Care Act is alive and well in New York State. There's a marketplace in New York that provides a whole range of affordable health insurance options that folks can take advantage of. Mm-hmm. The open enrollment period on the New York State of Health, which is the marketplace that exists for New Yorkers, is longer than that on the federal marketplace. Federal marketplace ends December 15th, right around the time that people are kind of still in the sway of holidays. Mm-hmm. But in New York, open enrollment runs from November 1st to January 31st. Okay. So folks really have time. We don't want them to wait till the last minute, but they have time to make their best choices. So, and there's lots of help in terms of paying for premiums and covering other kinds of out-of-pocket costs if you get coverage on the marketplace.
Sure.
So lots of options.
Where do people normally go for help?
There are lots of places that you can go for help, and since we do have the New York State of Health, you can call them. They have a call center that is available 5 days a week and even on Saturdays. There's a website that you can use. And
what is that?
That is nystateofhealth.ny.gov. Mm-hmm. Their call center number, I can also give you that. But New Yorkers who really want a simple way to get information can call 311, which is the city's hotline. Ask for health insurance. You can also give the operators at 311 your zip code, and they can point you to community-based organizations in your neighborhood where you can sit down and they can go through your options with you. What
would you say are the key things that people should know about the Affordable Care Act in the midst of all the confusion?
Well, all the things that folks should really know are all the benefits that the Affordable Care Act has brought and still brings to them. Things like protecting folks with pre-existing conditions. There was a lot of talk about pre-existing conditions both during the repeal and replace efforts and certainly during the midterms. Mm-hmm. And because we still have the Affordable Care Act, individuals with pre-existing conditions can get health insurance in New York. Individuals who are up to age 26 can get coverage through their parents' plans by virtue of the Affordable Care Act. Mm-hmm. And also, there was the expansion of Medicaid so that individuals with incomes little over $16,000 and families of four with incomes of a little over $34,000 can get Medicaid that had not been so ample before the Affordable Care Act. In addition, folks who are earning up to $100,000 in a family of four can get help in paying for premiums through the marketplace by virtue of the Affordable Care Act. And individuals earning under that amount to a certain level can get help not only with premiums, but also can get help with things like co-insurance, co-pays, deductibles. So there's lots of resources that the Affordable Care Act has made available. And in New York State, one additional point I want to let people know is we have a special program called the Essential Plan.
The Essential Plan.
Essential Plan. It's one of the most affordable health insurance plans in New York State. We are one of 2 states that have a program like this, but it's available to folks who earn slightly more than the Medicaid level, and the premiums are anywhere from no premium to $20 a month. You can't get a better bargain than $20 a month. It is income kind of tailored, but it is very affordable and provides comprehensive benefits.
And again, they get all that information on the website? Or
They get all of that information. There are 2 websites they can come to. They can go to the New York State of Health. Their website, which I mentioned, is nystateofhealth.ny.gov. Or we also have a website that provides a lot of information, a lot of resources, fact sheets to help explain some of these programs. And our website address is nyc.gov/HILINK, HILINK, health insurance link.
HILINK.
Yes.
What do you think is going to come next?
I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you that.
It's probably not fair enough to ask you that question. What do you fear?
I think all of us have lots of fears. We have a divided Congress by virtue of the midterm elections. We certainly have a changed House of Representatives with a Democratic majority. We have a kind of adjusting Senate. And I think we have to wait and see them take their place to see whether the same kind of threats that we had before the midterms persist, or whether there will be efforts to sustain and adjust the Affordable Care Act in ways that make it even better. So we really have to wait for January to come around and see what happens with the new Congress and the federal administration.
I'm curious about Medicaid. What are some of the questions you are getting about Medicaid?
Well, one of the things that's out in the ether when you talk about fears, there is a proposed rule that was issued in October by Health and Human Services. And it's a rule that deals with an immigration concept called public charge. And we are starting to hear questions, not only in my office, but certainly through a number of city agencies, because the concept of public charge is an immigration law issue. And the proposed rule, what it attempts to do is to provide a stricter test for how public charge is applied for individuals who are looking to gain certain immigration status or change their status. It also looks to expand the type of public benefits that might create an issue when you are looking to get status or change status. So we're getting concerns from immigrant populations about what does this mean for my starting to claim things like Medicaid or other kinds of public benefits. And the fear that we all have is that people act too quickly at this time to abandon benefits that they really need, thinking that they're going to be put in jeopardy, because this rule is a proposal.
It is only a proposal.
It's only a proposal. It is not in effect. So what's happening now is that the rule is out for a comment period, which is 60 days. The city is working on comments, as well as a lot of other organizations, to say what a inartful choice this would be to make people choose between regularizing status or getting status and having food to eat or other kinds of benefits that they really need to sustain themselves. And even once comments are issued, the federal government has to review them, then has to publish a final rule, and then there's going to be time even after the rule is published that the rule would take effect. So the message that we want the city's immigrants to understand is that we recognize this as a city of immigrants, and we know that these benefits are important for people's daily lives, and we don't want people to abandon benefits. And if they have concerns, there's also help for them.
You talk about the city and you talk about the federal. Is this a real city concern where the city government may have some impact in their decision making, or is this mainly at the federal level?
Well, this is a situation where the federal action has vast implications for city services and city citizens. So when we talk about an issue like public charge, what the proposal is to include benefits that hadn't been considered before. So things like Medicaid and things like Medicare Part D. Immigrants taking those kind of benefits when they are looking to get status or regularized status would create a situation where an immigration officer could scrutinize their application much more intensely. That has a real impact for the city, because certainly in the agency where I sit, the Human Resources Administration, we provide benefits for low-income New Yorkers every day. Folks need things like Medicaid and cash assistance and supplemental nutrition assistance programs, SNAP or food stamps. Those are things that people need to live, even while they're working. So to have the city's population walking around in fear of taking benefits that they need and should have, and having to make a forced choice like that has monetary implications for the city, both in terms of federal dollars that we draw down to administer those benefits, as well as kind of implications in the economy of the city. So it's a real concern.
Yes, immigrants. These are immigrants who are regularized.
And let me say, the public charge concept, even as this rule is fashioned, won't apply to every immigrant, but it will apply to folks in certain categories. So, for example, it won't apply to folks who have their citizenship or already have their green card status, or are refugees or asylees. There's certain particular categories that are protected. But folks who may be seeking a green card after the rule takes effect, or folks that are on visas after the rule takes effect, those folks may have to think about what the implications are. But again, it's not a rule now. So we don't want folks to be making decisions on something that has not yet taken effect.
And their decisions may very well be to apply for regularization?
Sure. And what we really caution people is, if they have questions now, as we're making our comments, or even later once the rule takes effect, there is a hotline that they can call, the New Americans Hotline, where they can actually ask questions about their particular situation, because everybody's situation is different. And we want people to have the benefit of good counsel before they make choices. And certainly if they have immigration counsel, they should consult immigration counsel before making any hasty decisions about benefits.
And you have so many immigrant groups here in New York.
Indeed, indeed.
Are many of them working with some of these immigrants, new immigrants, old immigrants?
There are many immigration service organizations that are working to, one, get the message out about what's happening with this rule. Organizations like Make the Road and the Immigration Coalition and others are really trying to help people, get them legal assistance, and certainly the city as well, through a program called Action NYC, which also connects immigrants to free and low-cost immigration legal services, also is working to get information out and also connect folks with resources.
We're practically in 2019 already.
It is scary how quickly this year is coming to a close.
Why scary?
Well, because it's moving so fast.
Yes, well, they say as we get older, time seems to.
Not seems, it does move quickly. It moves quicker.
What are some of the health insurance changes, other than what you spoke about, that one could expect in 2019?
Well, the one thing that folks should know and be careful about is this topic of the individual mandate. So when the Affordable Care Act was created, it was created with a requirement that everyone have health insurance. And that requirement remains standing until 2019. So while I think there's been some rhetoric out there that the mandate is dead, you don't have to worry about it, you still have to worry about it for this year. And what does that mean? It means that when you go to file your taxes in 2019 for the 2018 tax year, you will still have to show that you have had health insurance. So the mandate still stands for 2018. Yeah.
So this length of time expires when in 2019? At the beginning of the tax
So
period?
when you file your taxes in 2020 for 2019, you won't have to make that showing. Right? So it's you're making the showing for the previous calendar year, which is the tax period that you're reporting for. Right.
What are these two rules I'm hearing about that affect religious organizations?
More gifts from the federal administration.
Oh, really?
So the Affordable Care Act had essentially set a standard with regard to certain preventive services, and as part of that, contraceptive care, being able to get that fairly amply and in some instances without out-of-pocket costs. What has been issued recently are two rules that afford individuals and employers the ability to express their moral and religious objections to certain types of contraceptive coverage, so that employers would have the ability to either not offer coverage of themselves or to have a third party offer it because they have a certain moral or religious objection to it. And individuals could have the ability to refuse certain kinds of coverage for similar moral and religious objections. Now, that is what exists at the federal level. New York is different, as New York always is. We have in New York State a mandate that insurers must provide approved contraceptive care. So that is a requirement for New York State insurers. So unlike at the federal level, the governor here has made it a priority that women have the ability to get that care both affordably and easily.
So that's how the effect will be felt by or seen or experienced by women.
Again, there's been every effort in New York to protect a person's ability to get contraceptive care from their providers.
Let's talk about cover before we leave.
Sure. Yeah.
Can people go to the marketplace? You talk a lot about the marketplace.
Sure.
What really is the marketplace? You
Well,
say New York is the marketplace.
So the New York State of Health, when I talk about a marketplace, it's a one-stop shop to get health insurance coverage. So it's the place that where you go, either by phone, by a written application, or over the website to apply for either public health insurance like Medicaid or Child Health Plus or the Essential Plan, or private health insurance plans where you get help with premiums. The marketplace is the only place that you can go and get that kind of financial assistance that I talked about with your premiums and other kinds of costs. So it is meant to be a one-stop shop for all kinds of health insurance options. And someone who has COBRA coverage and may be coming off of it or lapsing it, this is a critical time for them to go to the marketplace. This time being the open enrollment period is a critical time for them to go to the marketplace and see what they may be able to qualify for.
And for people who've heard about COBRA but don't quite understand what it is and how it could benefit them?
Well, COBRA is coverage that's usually offered to individuals who are in some aspect of terminating their connection with an employer. And it is a continuation of coverage, often which they are paying for full cost. So it can be quite expensive to continue coverage after your more formal employment relationship has concluded. So to have the ability to go to the New York State of Health and qualify either for something like Medicaid where there's no premium or a private health insurance plan where there's a more affordable premium is a real boon in that circumstance.
Marjorie Cadogan. I got it wrong, right?
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
I want to thank you for coming on Brooklyn 45 to explain these issues.
Thank you.
As you said just now, health insurance can be very costly. And indeed, it is very essential.
Indeed, and we really encourage people, even if you don't think that you qualify for any of these programs, go to the marketplace, go to the New York State of Health, and find out.
Thank you.
Bronx native, 29-year-old Puerto Rican waitress raised by a single mother. Sound like a congresswoman to you? Well, is this 2018 where we have to let go of the 56-year-old white male with corporate funding narrative that's historically helpful to gain a seat in Congress? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bronx's youngest woman of color elected to Congress, a sentence I personally never get tired of hearing. Cortez's father passed away from cancer, leaving her mother, Blanca, as a single mother. Cortez didn't have a straight career path to congressional office. Originally, she wanted to be a doctor, which led her to Boston University to study. Like most New Yorkers, Alexandria couldn't stay afloat with just one job. She worked as an educational director for a nonprofit. The political divisiveness in 2016 mobilized Cortez and her friends to travel across the country, listening to Americans and their needs, making stops in places like Flint and Standing Rock. The Political Action Committee, Brand New Congress, was paying close attention to Cortez's efforts. At the end of her road trip, she was asked by Brand New Congress to run for 2018's Congress with their financial help. It was really important to her that she didn't take PAC's money to fund her campaign, but that it was based in community support. Alexandria Cortez began campaigning for the working families of New York as a democratic socialist, championing for students to have tuition-free college and improved health care. Surprisingly, some Democrats and Republicans share the concern that her goals are a little unrealistic. Thanks to Queens and Bronx voters, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has the opportunity to elevate the standard of living for millions of New Yorkers. She has already made such an impact as a powerful and poised woman in politics. Leave us a comment on our Instagram of someone who has inspired you this year. That's at BRKLYN45. I'm Asha Paul. Back to you, Sam.
You just heard from Asha Paul. You can watch this program on our YouTube site, www.youtube.com/Brooklyn45TV. Please also visit our Facebook page, like us, and post your comment about anything you just heard. Or you can go to our Snapchat page. You know, young people love the Snapchat. Or go to our Facebook page. On behalf of our Brooklyn 45 team, I'm Sam Tate.